S.S.S. Behar, Tov Pei Dalet. And as you all know, that every week, every lesson of the Nesivos Shalom is very, very timely, very, very important. But personally, I find the Nesivos Shaloms on S.S.S. Behar to be very, extra special, fundamental, very, very, very important, basic Yadus lessons of how every Yid has to come to the table before we get to other things. Very, very important lessons in this week's Parsha. And we're going to speak about one of the great themes of S.S.S. Behar tonight. And the beginning of this week's Parsha is about, everybody knows, the beginning of the Parsha is about the mitzvah of Shemitah. That during the 7th year, no one in Eretz Yisrael should work the land. You don't deal with the crops. Everything takes a break for the 7th year. And the Pasuk tells us that when we come to Eretz Yisrael, the land which Hashem is giving to us, the Pasuk tells us what to do. V'shavsa ha'aretz Shabbos Lashem. That the land is going to have a Shabbos, it's going to have a sabbatical. The land is going to, we let it lie fallow. Nobody works the land, a total rest. And the Psukim then tell us the following. And I'm going to quote you the Psukim, and then we're going to explain a little bit. Sheish shonim tizra sadecha. For 6 years, you could seed, you work the land for 6 years. V'sheish shonim tizmar karmecha. You plant, you work your vineyard. V'osafto es tevuasa. And you gather and you harvest all the tevuah. That's for 6 years. And what happens in the 7th year? The Torah tells us, Uvashana hashviyis, but in the 7th year, Shabbat Shabbosoim, it'll be Shabbat Shabbosoim for the land, Shabbos Lashem. And that's what the Psukim quote. That's quoting the Psukim what it tells us. So really, we need to explain, says the Nesivos Shalom, the order with which the Torah says this whole inyan of Shemitah. So the biggest question really is, we said the beginning of the Parsha starts off, Ki savoyu el haaretz, asher ani nosein lochem, HaKadosh Baruch Hu saying, when you come to the land, v'shavso haaretz Shabbos Lashem. The land will rest and get a year of rest. Would not the correct order have been to first tell us, Sheish shanim tizra sadecha? First, tell me that I should work the land for 6 years and take a rest. Why does the Parsha start off, when you come to the land of Eretz Yisrael, v'shavso ha'aretz Shabbos Lashem? What came first? Obviously, working the land for 6 years comes first. Why do we begin? It's a tremendous question, and there are a bunch of pieces in the Nesivos Shalom on this week's Parsha that ask this same question and answer it in different ways. But the question remains that the first thing they didn't do was rest. First, you work the land for 6 years. Why does the Torah say first, V'shavso haaretz Shabbos Lashem? And really, we find the same idea and question when the Torah tells us about Shabbos. Torah tells us about Shabbos Kodesh, Zochor es Yom HaShabbos L'Kaddish. Everybody's familiar with these words. We're saying Kiddush, Shabbos morning. Everybody knows Zochor es Yom HaShabbos L'Kaddish. And only after that does the Torah state Sheishes Yomim Ta'avoid B'Asisochol Malachtecha. For 6 days you should work and complete all your work. Uvayom HaShvi'i Shabbos Lashem Alekecha. On the seventh day, but first the Torah says, Zochar es Yom HaShabbos L'Kadshei, much in the same way as Shemitah, where the Torah tells us, V'shavso ha'aretz Shabbos L'Shem, and then tells us, work for 6 years and rest the seventh year. And here the Torah tells us, Zochar es Yom HaShabbos L'Kadshei, right? To remember, to think about, to keep the Shabbos, and then the Torah says, work for 6 days and keep the Shabbos. Why does Zochar es Yom HaShabbos L'Kadshei come before working for 6 days? Actually, the question is really why the Torah, over there the question is really why the Torah needs to say at all, Zochar es Yom HaShabbos L'Kadshei. Just say, work for 6 days and rest on the seventh day. So really, what is this all about? So Nesivos Shalom explains with a beautiful and very, very important yesod, really, that every person has to think about and everyone has to know in our daily lives and the way we approach our lives. He says we need to understand that the mitzvah of Shemitah is not just a commandment about working the land for 6 years and then taking the seventh year off. Shemitah is a yesod of emunah. Shemitah and everything that revolves around Shemitah and all the obligations and mitzvahs and different things that come with Shemitah, they are a yesod of emunah. And what is that yesod of emunah? That yesod is the lesson that every single thing and everything is in the hands of Hashem. And that every Yid needs to believe this Havtocha that we have in the Parsha, B'tzivisi birchasi, that HaKadosh Baruch Hu is going to give the bracha which lasts 3 years, the 6th year, the 7th year, the 8th year. This tremendous bracha is a yesod, this Havtocha is a yesod of emunah. And every person has to know that no success in anything that we do, in anything and in any of our work, and any of the way we go about our parnasa, no success at all is attributed to ourselves. Everything is from Hashem. Nothing is koichi v'oitzim yodi asali zachayla zeh. We can never say that. We can never say that it's us who did anything. So when the Torah writes about the mitzvah of Shemitah, the first thing that the Torah tells us is V'shavsa ha'aretz Shabbos L'Shem. Before I tell you that you work for 6 years and the land has to rest, V'shavsa ha'aretz Shabbos L'Shem, it teaches us that lesson that it's not about our work. Don't think because you work for 6 years and then, even if the land rests on the seventh year, that something that we do is causing our success. The first lesson that we need to learn is, V'shavsa ha'aretz Shabbos L'Shem. You don't need to do anything. And anything that you do is not what is producing your success. And that is not what is producing your parnasa. It's teaching us this lesson that it's not about our work. That it's Hashem who completely controls and runs the world, and that it is Hashem who gives us our sustenance and gives us our support. And only after that lesson, V'shavsa ha'aretz Shabbos L'Shem, only after that does the Torah teach us the practical applications and specifics of the mitzvah of Shemitah. And really, the same idea, the same approach applies to Shabbos too. First, the Torah tells us, Zochar es Yom HaShabbos L'Kadshei. First, the Torah tells us to keep Shabbos. And the reason the Torah does that is once again to teach us this yesod that it's all about Hashem. What you get and what you earn and how you support yourself is not about the Sheishis Yomim Tavoi V'Sisacho Malachtecha. That's not what produces your parnasa. Zochar es Yom HaShabbos L'Kadshei, that you can go to sleep. You don't have to do anything. Anything that you do, it's really, really all coming from Hashem. Success has nothing to do with any one of us. And only after that, once again, you see, the Torah gives the specifics about working for 6 days, and then on the 7th day, we rest. And that emunah, that understanding of that it's not about the 6 years of working and then taking Shemitah off. It's not about the 6 days of working and taking the Shabbos off. The way we get our parnasa is first, B'Shavso Ha'aretz Shabbos L'Hashem. Lesson number 1, Emunah, B'Tochen in HaKadosh Baruch Hu, that it comes from Hashem. And then, even though really the 6 years come before the 1 year of Shemitah, first the Torah tells us about Shemitah. First the Torah tells us the Yesod of Emunah is that nothing comes from us. And that Yesod was big enough. We say, B'schus Emunah, Nigalu Avosenu Mitzrayim. Klal Yisrael had no other chusim then. They didn't have anything at the time of Yetzias Mitzrayim. But they did have Emunah. And that Emunah, that chus, was enough to take us out of Mitzrayim, because they knew that whatever happens, it's all about Hashem. And that is why the Mishnah tells us, the Mishnah in Pirkei Avos tells us also, that Golus comes to the world al Shmitas Haaretz. Golus comes to the world if we do not keep Shemitah, because it's such a tremendous thing. If you don't keep Shemitah, you're showing that you don't have Emunah. If we don't have Emunah, then we have Golus. We got out of Mitzrayim. The schus of the Geula comes from Emunah. So if we don't keep Shemitah, then it shows the tremendous lack of Emunah. We have to all believe and understand this lesson, that our sustenance, our parnasa, is only from HaKadosh Baruch Hu. We believe that CBCS Birchasi is the only way we're ever going to get anything. And we need to really, you think about the lesson. Unfortunately, today, there's a question. Shemitah's D'Rabbanan, Shemitah's D'Oraisa. Here in Chutz La'aretz, we don't have it at all. But we need to internalize this lesson of Shemitah. The lesson of Shemitah is for our Golus too. The lesson that until we realize that it's HaKadosh Baruch Hu who does everything, it's HaKadosh Baruch Hu who supports us, it's HaKadosh Baruch Hu who sustains us. None of our parnasa, no one's assets, no one's wealth comes from anything that they themselves are doing. And our goal is too, until we understand that it's not about the Kiyum of Eretz Yisrael, is not about because we have a strong Israeli army, it's not because we fight better, it's not because of anything that we actually do. It's when we keep the mitzvahs of the Torah and we keep Shemitah, and more people, Baruch Hashem, in Eretz Yisrael are keeping Shemitah. That's a tremendous chus, because it means that Emunah is thriving. It means that Emunah is there, that we understand that everything comes from HaKadosh Baruch Hu. And the chus of keeping Eretz Yisrael, the chus of keeping Eretz Yisrael comes with that responsibility of understanding and knowing that it all comes from HaKadosh Baruch Hu. So now when you read the Parsha and you come to this Shabbos, when we read the Parsha, you're going to see, the Parsha is going to start, B'Shavso Ha'aretz Shabbos Hashem. Wait, we didn't work for 6 years yet. Why does the Torah tell us to rest? To rest right away, the Torah is telling us that important lesson. And every one of us, the more we think about that, the better people we become. The more we understand that you think it's you running around, you work harder, you do this, you do that. That's all shtusim. It's all nothing. It's actually just air. HaKadosh Baruch Hu is giving us, HaKadosh Baruch Hu, we have a haftacha that HaKadosh Baruch Hu, if we have emunah and we have a bitachon, HaKadosh Baruch Hu will take care of us.